I'm just chewing it.
All right, guys. So last time we were with Ilona and James of the U.S. Tai Chi Push Hands team, and we did only a few of the top 5 moving step moves. And they're at Hero Factory in New York, or New York Sando, or New York Best Kickboxing. Many different names for this school. Sifu David Ross's school. Awesome, great supporter of what we do. So we're gonna go over what Ilona and James are doing, and yeah. So if you can let me know what the other. We did diagonal flying last time. We did a 3-push combination. And did we do anything else?
We
did anaconda footwork. We did anaconda footwork. So we did 3.
And then that's for the drill for the diagonal flying.
Yeah, each of these drills are have so many layers to it. But would you consider those the 3 of your top 5 push hands moves?
And I'm counting the anaconda, meaning that feels really clear. Yeah.
Okay. So kind of the anaconda is really, like, I wouldn't call it a direct. I mean, it is a direct technique. It's kind of an approach rather than a direct technique you fire. But I think that it's super valuable.
That we did so far.
So what were the other ones you were thinking of?
Well, so I was working with Max on a crank that comes from the pummeling position. So we're coming from the pummeling position, and I'm gonna switch from the elbow and switch leg at the same time and take them through. I want to do this long ways. I'm gonna have to move you.
Sure. Let me check. You wrote stuff down too, so let me just look at what you wrote down, because you said something about.
Sorry.
So you had Tom's crank and Max's crank as your last
right. So the one I was
5.
showing you. All right. So this is coming from the pommel.
Hold on, I'm just gonna pin this. Can you show me that again, a little closer to camera?
Sorry, yeah, I don't.
That's okay. That's great. That's great.
I wasn't quite ready. I'm sorry. Okay. Put you get you comfortable.
All right, you guys have here, let me sit down a little bit so I can get a. Okay, great. I'm stretching while I'm watching their work.
Wait, Jen.
Yep.
Shoulder.
Yeah, you guys don't have the greatest reception, but I can see you. So just fire away. Okay, I'm gonna. I couldn't see that because the reception wasn't very good. But it looks okay. Great. Now I'm seeing it. Okay. So that's interesting. So it seems to me, because this is choppy, I'm going to redo this on my end to make sure I'm seeing. Okay, so you're doing a switch foot. So you're switching. You have your stance. You're switching your stance, and you're launching the opponent. You're so essentially you're doing like it seems to me you're doing like a handle flip, we call, and it's not. So essentially, are you, because it's choppy, I'm asking this question, are you doing your switch foot, one hand's going lower on the body, so you have your 50-50 clinch, you're in the clinch, and let's say your right elbow, or your outside, you're farther, the elbow that's closer to you, you switch, when you switch feet.
And that means.
Hold on. Okay. So Okay, so now let me see what you're doing next from this move. From there. Okay. Okay, no. So it's not the handle flip. I was wrong. That is not the handle flip. That is definitely a crank, but it's kind of like a hybrid crank and throw. So you're simply switching, cranking, and you're not really throwing, you're kind of pushing them.
Turning
them.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it's a valid thing to do. I think that did you classify this as Max's throw or Max's crank or Tom's crank, or whose crank did you classify this as? Max's. Okay. Yeah, I think this is valid. It's a really this to me is just a switch foot crank, and if you know the intention is to, in my experience, the intention is to flip the opponent on the ground when you do it. And if you don't get that flip, then what you're doing is the result. So it's kind of like the concept of aiming for 100% and getting 70% and still being happy with it. So I would aim, and I think it's super interesting that you're aiming for a push here, switch and go to push. So that's super cool. I think that's super cool. So like I would just keep in mind that you have the option to put more spin on your opponent's hips to get them to fall, to flip. But it also depends on timing to get that to get the throw. I'm going to show you guys what they're doing.
We can do this later. Do you want to go to the other ones?
Yeah, what was the next one?
Sorry, I'm feeling it. The other, when I say Tom, it's really Williams, so, and I don't know if it goes so well with our strategy. We were working on like, okay, you're backing up to the line sort of, but the part that works is the big root up and you're switching positions. So.
Okay, so can you do that again?
Putting up. This way.
Okay, so this is really interesting. It sounds to me, it looks to me like you've simplified, you've really focused on the crank, and so that to me is because the crank, leading up to the crank, there's different techniques. So it looked like what you did to me was another crank, except it was a back leg crank rather than a switch leg crank, which is awesome. It's awesome to have that many cranks in your arsenal. And so you're doing a switch leg and you're cranking them over the leg, the extended leg, right? So you're essentially here. You switch, crank them.
Switch leg. So we decided we've been drilling from this starting. So this is like really getting them to push into you.
So given that we have 4 minutes before I have to jump on my other class, I have two notes for you to think about with both of these techniques. So one, with the switch leg, the first one you just showed me, the switch leg, hide the switching of the leg with the shoulder roll, with a pulse. We call it a pulse. So the same way you touch the hand and you get a response, you have a shoulder roll that gives you a response, and you pulse, and it's pulsing from the lower dantian up. So it's a cascading pulse through your shoulder. And you can also think of it, it could be on your opponent's shoulder. It could be on your opponent's sternum, meaning that my shoulder is on the sternum itself. But essentially you get this little pulse, and you can be using this pulse while using, let's say, the anaconda footwork. It combines with a lot of steps, pulse in the back. You can use this pulse for many reasons. But for here, pulse 1, pulse 2, or pulse 1, and then on pulse 2, switch legs so they don't feel the switch. So you pulse and switch at the same time. So maybe you pulse 2 or 3 times. You pulse 1, pulse 2, pulse switch leg throw. So you're getting the opponent used to their opinion, their attention going higher, and then you switch your legs on the pulse and then you crank. So the whole chain exactly. So that's one. So the other thing for the other technique you were doing, you're luring them in, it seems, in the other technique. So the pulse is now reversed. In other words, you're stepping back, step back. So here we go. Step back, and switch leg, and then crank over the leg. So and you're gonna have to get used to the rhythm, the weight distribution for yourself. But I think those are 2 things that if you're going to practice this morning, in the matted gym space, that's the thing to do. That those 2 techniques. So all we're doing is one is a static pulse, and you can also do this the pulse walking forward for the first the first version of the switch leg, but then when you're going backwards, it is going to be like almost like a pulling, like a sucking pull, like vroom, vroom. And that's very similar to judo. Very, very similar to judo. More than likely, we pulled this from Josh pulled this from his time with Oishi. So okay, awesome. So this is I can stay on for a few more minutes, maybe another minute or so. But I mean, given that you guys do you have any thoughts, questions on this one, or do you feel like you have enough to practice?
Yeah, I have a lot to practice. I feel like I've got like 4 direct moves and strategies for moving step.
Let's try and
Do you need
fix that.
one idea? Why? What?
I want advice on this one, Jan.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see where version.
Now, that's great. Go. Ready? Go. Ready?
Okay.
Go. Go. Yeah, she gets her hand out, so I can't grab it. Ready? Go. If she knows that I'm drilling it, she'll try to make it difficult for me to grab the hand.
Okay.
So, what's your advice on how this? How can I be a good drill partner for you?
How to be a good drill partner for that particular. I would, from that move,
Yeah.
from here we go, from starting position, Tai Chi World Cup starting position. If they are doing this starting position,
Yeah.
I would make sure that obviously you're giving the pulse. The pulsing is happening from different angles all the time to set up these moves. So when you're inflating your wrist or pressing the elbow to get the response, that obviously you're starting that way. After the insert, you're popping the elbow in on the insert. So you're pushing, letting it come up, and then sliding it down. So it's like a 1, 2, 3. So that one hand is sliding down the arm as you're pulling the other one. So it's just you adapting the arm drag to the starting position from the World Cup. So I would say when you're doing that, Dad's really good at a sharp downward angle and just popping it down. But I would angle yours to give you more spin and get the opponent. I would angle yours behind you to the corner behind you.
Okay.
So going all the way around to that corner behind me. All the way behind me. So making sure there's room. And that way, when you're doing it with them, you're getting that sucking, that spiraling down. And remember, to get that motion, to remember when you do that, it's connected to your tailbone, your hip and your tailbone. So once you connect the fingers to the tricep of the opponent, drop the hips like an elevator. So the tailbone, the hips, everything like an elevator going down. So it's less about the pull and the spine bending, and more about the hips dropping, so that they fall into the hole that the corresponding hip is creating. So in other words, if your right hand is out your right hip is creating a hole. And by dropping the hip and the tailbone, they're getting sucked through that hole. So all you're doing is making a sticky connection from the fingertips and their triceps to your hip. And then you drop the hip and aim that connection behind you. Boom. And so I would practice that, because that experience in and of itself is you know, it's a particular chain reaction in the body. So you're just programming that, refining it, because and you have that, you've done that before. So I just think it's just a matter of you just drilling that over and over again to make that one of your more you know, most vicious techniques.
Okay, and what's the sequence? Should I get the hand across first before I insert, or do I insert and drag it and then get the hand across?
So set up first. So like while in the holding position before the ref calls go, claiming your space. So you're claiming your space first, which means you're imposing your structure on the partner. So impose your structure first. They're probably going to start pushing back. So once that happens and they're trying to maintain their space, that's when you start that. So that's step one. Step two is then you're starting to add the gentle pressing of the elbow. So you're claiming space with this hand. You might feign a little with this hand, but what you're really doing is you're starting to test their reaction with on the elbow. And then once you hear go, you tap boom, you're shooting it, you're timing it with the sense of go. It's boom. So if you hear go, that 1-2 is happening. Push in, and then once you get that connection, drop the hip, push this hand down to slide. If you're on the elbow, sliding from elbow to forearm, and then going. So that sequence is claim space, create the rhythm, and then enter, drop the hips like an elevator as everything slides down, keeping the connection.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you, Jen.
Of course, guys. Love you so much, and let me know how it goes today. And if you guys want to jump on a little bit later, I might still be able to jump on a little later too.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Love you guys so much.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.